I received a message from a good friend of mine in Arizona who has just started training Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, but he's having some struggles because he suffers from a chronic disease called lupus, and that's making his training more challenging. He's fatiguing faster, and he's having problems memorizing techniques, and he feels like other students are progressing at a faster pace and doing better than he is, and he's just really frustrated with the challenges that he's having. So he shot me that message, and I decided I would make it this week's question of the week, addressing my friend's question of dealing with training Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and having physical challenges. And I'm al-Aziz, the owner and head instructor of Semper Fortis Jiu-Jitsu here in San Antonio, Texas, and I just want to tackle this week's question of the week. So I want to look at this question from two parts. One, from the instructor's part, and two, from the student's part. From the instructor's part, as the owner of a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu school, I have a lot of students who have whether chronic diseases or physical challenges, or just mental challenges to overcome, and I tailor my instruction to help them so they can be included in the class. I do it through the We Defy program, which is for combat disabled vets. So I have veterans in here who are missing limbs. I have veterans in here who are suffering from PTSD, traumatic brain injuries. I have veterans in here who, one of my veterans, he's paralyzed from the waist down, so he's in a wheelchair. So I have to tailor my instruction to their physical capabilities, their physical and mental capabilities. Like one of my veterans, suffers from PTSD and has panic attacks. So I watch that veteran extra close, to make sure that, hey, everything's cool. And that's from an instructor's perspective, is knowing your students and knowing their challenges and tailoring my instruction to it. So like I don't expect, my veteran, or one of my students who's in a wheelchair to be able, to run up and down the mats. It's like, well, clearly that's not possible. Nor do I expect, my veteran who's missing a limb, to be able to do spider guard, the way that, I do spider guard. So I have to tailor that for them. And so if you're the instructor of a student that has physical challenges, physical or mental challenges, you just need to be aware of it and try to tailor that training to them. For instance, like I have several students that are not only well over 300 pounds, I got a couple students that well over 400 pounds. So for those students, I'm looking at their physical capabilities, and I'm not trying to push them past their capabilities, where it's like, oh yeah, just run, just do it all, do everything, this 20-year-old does, who doesn't have any physical limitations. I realize that I have to tailor things for these students that have extra challenges. And I embrace that as an instructor, because I, whether it's through this charity Mission 22, which is bringing awareness to 22 veterans that commit suicide on average every day in America, or through the We Defy Foundation. I get that patch here. It's for combat disabled veterans. Like I embrace that challenge. I want to bring in people that, jiu-jitsu can be a good outlet for them to change their lives or to make their lives better. So when you look at jiu-jitsu, it's don't train jiu-jitsu because you want to be an elite competitor. Because I think roughly they did a study, I've read in a couple places, only like 10% of everybody that does Brazilian jiu-jitsu actually competes. Like, competition is not a big deal. So don't do it for that. Do it for your own self-improvement. Whether it's, you want to improve your conditioning, a more healthy lifestyle, self-defense. And, because people who are disabled are often prime targets of criminals because they consider you an easier victim. So, do Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu for self-defense. Do it for the camaraderie. Like, one of the things that helped me transition, because I was in the Navy for 33 years. And, a lot of veterans, when we retire, after these careers, like, we have a challenge of trying to figure out, like, who we are and where we belong. And we need this sense of purpose. And, one of the biggest things veterans miss is the camaraderie we had in the military, the friendships. Like, we don't necessarily miss the missions or the supervisors or the leadership that we had, but we miss our fellow veterans. And so, like, for me, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu really helped me with my transition, going from 33 years in the Navy to, now I don't have to wake up early in the morning. Now I don't have to be at this certain place. And, I needed friends. I needed people to interact with, similar to the military. And Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu gave me that. It gives me a bunch of friends, a bunch of people to interact with. And so for me and my mental health, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is phenomenal. And that's the reason I have a school. Like, I was like, I need something to do. I'm just going to make my own Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu school. And I'm going to train people. And I'm going to seek out good people and interact with them. And so it's a great thing for both me, my wife, who also teaches here, my daughter, my son. We have a stepdaughter, stepson. They train too. My grandson trains. Like, we just come out and we train. And it's good for the whole family. So there's more to Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and training Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu or Judo, which we also offer, than just being a tournament champion. Because like I said, very few people actually compete. And, you're going to, say if you're in my position, I turned 55 years old in a couple months. I have black belts in here who are 20 years old. Like, Father Time is decreasing my ability to perform. Physically, I'm not the same. I'm not as athletic as I was when I was 25. Now that I'm 55. That's not a big news flash. Nobody is. So when I train with my younger black belts, I realized that I'm not physically getting better. I'm physically, getting slower, weaker, more fragile. These things happen. This is life. And so we all have our own, challenges. But just because I can't be the best Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt in the world and go this month to Los Angeles and compete in the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu World Championships in the adult black belt division and win it, doesn't mean it's not worth me still training. So I realize, because of my age, some people are going to just progress better than me. And that's okay. Like, we had a good friend of mine, Tiago Macedo. He won Pan Ams at the adult black belt division 2 years ago. He came in, he rolled with me, and I knew he was going to get the better of me. And that was like maybe a year ago. But if I roll with him today, he's still going to get the better of me. Like, he's phenomenal. He's one of the best black belts in the world. And, he's 20 some years old. It's like, so I can't compare my progress to somebody else's because this is the body I have. So whether you're dealing with a chronic disease, like in the case of my friend in Arizona, there is no cure for lupus. So you're always going to have it. And it, like, some days are going to be better than others, or some periods of time are going to be better than others based on your symptoms, but you're always going to have this disease. And it's determining whether the disease is going to prevent you from doing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I say continue to do Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and no matter how slow your progress is, keep doing it because you're still making progress. You're still bettering yourself. And it's like, be the best person, or be the best person you can be. or what the Army used to say, be all you can be. So based on what we have, it's worth training to be the best that we can be. Sometimes we just can't be the best in the world, or, the best at your school. Like there are going to be people better, at a particular skill set. Like I know I can't take up golf and be as good as Tiger Woods. Like I've never played golf in my whole life. So I know I'm not going to start today and, be at that level or ever be at that level. But I could take it up if I thought that was an interesting use of my time, and I could play golf and that could be enjoyable for me. And that would be the only reason to do it, is because I'm getting enjoyment out of it, or, whatever exercise or, mental stimulation. And that's what you get out of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. So like if you're in my class, you'll see like for my 300 and 400 pound guys, I encourage them to work on their physical conditioning, but I don't make them do all the exercises that all the other students are doing. It's like I work with what they have. And, same thing with, some of my elderly, students. I'm not trying to take them through an endurance test and then teaching them a technique, because I realize that they don't have the same endurance that, say, a 20-year-old does, or a teenager does, or even a 30-year-old. So maybe the challenge with my friend who has lupus is looking at the instructor not putting you through as strenuous of exercising or workout prior to the technique, because you're fatiguing faster due to your ailments. And so the more fatigued you are, the more difficult it will be for you to learn a new technique and retain, memory of that technique. Because, like if you just ran a mile, you're like, your mind is on breathing. It's like, I just want to breathe, and then it's like, man, if I'm showing you a technique, not that we run miles in jiu-jitsu, but, like if you've ever sparred in jiu-jitsu, it feels like a marathon and you'll be quite fatigued. So, like maybe the answer to your journey is working with your instructor to not do as much sparring, not to do as much in warm-ups. And it's not that you're lazy or that you're a slacker. It's that, you have a different physical limitation than the other students. And so when I teach, and I think I would hope all instructors strive to do this, is strive to be inclusive for all your students regardless of where they are, and try to help them. So that's the answer of this week's question of the week. I know I went all over the place with the answer, but I wanted to give it a good answer, and I'll probably look at this video later and be like, dang, Saad, you should have said this or you should have said that. But I only do one take on these videos. I don't cut, I don't edit. I hit play, and then I run my mouth. And at the end, it's like, okay, I'm done talking, and let's see what all I said. If you got a question for next week, feel free to comment below. Or if you have any insights on what I talked about on this video, in addition to chronic diseases, or training with disabilities, please share them. And if you think this video would be helpful for anybody, feel free to share this video with them. And till next week, ciao.